5 friends went to sleep in their beds. They woke up in a nightmare. No phones. No compass. Just endless forest and something watching them from the shadows. This is their fight for survival. Marcus opened his eyes to darkness and the smell of wet earth. His bed was gone. The ceiling was gone. Above him stretched endless branches blocking a gray sky. He sat up quickly, heart pounding. Around him lay 4 other bodies. Sarah, Jake, Emma, and David. His friends from college. All unconscious on the forest floor. Marcus crawled to Sarah and shook her shoulder. She gasped awake, eyes wide with terror. Within minutes all 5 were conscious, cold, and completely confused about their situation. The last thing they remembered was going to sleep in their apartment after game night. Now they wore the same clothes but stood in an unfamiliar forest. Jake pulled out his phone. No signal. The screen showed 6:47 a.m. but the date made no sense. Emma tried hers. Same problem. David's was completely dead. Sarah was the first to voice what they all feared. We need to find water and shelter. We need to figure out where we are before nightfall comes again. They picked a direction based on nothing but instinct. Marcus led the way, pushing through thick underbrush. The forest seemed to close in around them with every step. Hours passed. The sun barely penetrated the canopy above. They found no trails, no signs of civilization. Just endless trees that all looked exactly the same. Emma stopped suddenly. Listen. They all froze. The sound of running water echoed somewhere to their left. Hope sparked in their exhausted eyes for the first time. They found the stream within minutes. Clear cold water rushing over smooth stones. They drank deeply, filling their empty stomachs with the only sustenance they had found. Follow the stream down, Jake suggested. Streams lead to rivers. Rivers lead to people. It was the first logical plan they had. They started walking along the bank. David noticed it first. Scratches on a tree trunk. Too high for any animal they knew. Too deep. Too deliberate. Something large had marked this territory. Keep moving, Marcus said, but his voice shook. They walked faster now, constantly glancing over their shoulders. The forest felt different. Like they were being watched constantly. As evening approached they found a small clearing near the stream. We need shelter before dark, Sarah said. They gathered branches and built a crude lean-to. Night fell fast in the forest. One moment there was dim light, the next complete darkness. They huddled together in their shelter, listening to unfamiliar sounds. Something moved in the darkness beyond their shelter. Heavy footsteps. Branches snapping. A low growl that made their blood run cold. They held their breath together. The sounds circled their camp for what felt like hours. Then silence. The worst kind of silence. The kind that means something is waiting and watching patiently. Dawn came as a relief. They emerged from the shelter exhausted. No one had slept. Emma noticed footprints in the mud near the stream. Large. Definitely not human. We need to move faster, David said. Whatever made those prints could come back. They abandoned the shelter and started downstream again, pushing through their exhaustion. By midday they reached a place where the stream widened. On the opposite bank Jake spotted something that made him shout. A piece of fabric caught on branches. Someone else has been here, Emma said, crossing the stream. They found more signs. A broken water bottle. Boot prints in dried mud. They were not alone. They followed the boot prints like a lifeline. The trail led away from the stream into denser forest. Marcus hesitated, but they had no better option now. The prints led them to a cave entrance hidden behind thick vines. Inside they found the remains of a camp. Someone had stayed here recently and left. Sarah found a journal among the supplies. The entries were frantic. The writer had been lost for weeks. The final entry sent chills down their spines completely. The journal said, "Do not trust the paths. They move. The forest does not want you to leave. I hear it calling me deeper. I must go." "That is insane," Jake said. "Forests do not move." But Marcus remembered. They had passed the same distinctive tree twice yesterday. He had noticed but said nothing. "We need to mark our path," David suggested. They used rocks to create arrows pointing back toward the cave. They would test if paths really moved tonight. They spent the day gathering supplies from the cave. Rope. A knife. Matches. The previous explorer had left useful tools. They prepared for another night carefully. As darkness fell, they noticed something impossible. Their rock arrows had moved. The path they marked in the morning now pointed in a different direction entirely. "The forest is alive," Emma whispered. Sarah pulled out the compass she had found in the cave. The needle spun wildly, never settling on north. "We are trapped in something that does not follow normal rules," Marcus said. "We need to think differently. What if we are meant to go deeper instead?" "The journal said the forest calls you deeper," Jake argued. "That is exactly what we should not do." But Marcus had a theory brewing in his mind. "What if the forest keeps us because we fight it?" Marcus explained. "What if we need to accept where we are? Stop trying to escape and go?" "That is insane," David said. But they had been walking for 3 days with no progress. Normal logic had failed them completely. Maybe insane was worth trying. At first light they walked deliberately toward the deepest, darkest part of the forest. Every instinct screamed to turn back. They walked forward anyway purposefully. The forest changed as they went deeper. The trees grew massive, ancient beyond measure. The air felt thick. Reality felt thin. Something was watching them closely. They reached a clearing they had never seen before. In the center stood a circle of stones covered in moss. The air hummed with energy here. Sarah approached the stones and placed her hand on one. Images flooded her mind. The forest was a guardian. A threshold between worlds. They had crossed accidentally. "To leave we must ask permission," Sarah said, pulling her hand back. "We must show respect to what guards this place." They stood in the circle together. Marcus spoke aloud. "We did not mean to trespass. We wish to return home. We respect your domain and ask safe passage back to our world." The forest went completely silent. No birds. No wind. No sound at all. Then the stones began to glow with soft green light from deep within. The light grew brighter until they had to close their eyes. They felt the ground shift beneath their feet. Reality bent around them like water. When the light faded, they opened their eyes slowly. They stood in an empty parking lot. Their apartment building rose before them. City sounds filled the air. Marcus checked his phone. 3 days had passed since game night. They had missed work and classes. But they were home. They were finally safe again. They never spoke about what happened in the forest. But sometimes at night they each wondered. Had it been real? The scars on their arms said yes.